My wife drained our joint account while I was unconscious in the ICU. The only message she sent read, "I deserve this after everything I've put up with." There was a PDF attachment. Divorce papers. 15 years. Gone with a click. My name's Eli Mercer. I'm 48 years old, and for the last 22 of them, I've made a living behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler. Coast to coast. From frozen meat to auto parts, I hauled whatever kept the lights on. Not the kind of work that earns applause, but it paid for the house, filled the fridge, and put a few stamps in Dana's passport when she wanted to play at being well-traveled. We lived in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, one of those Midwestern cities that's just big enough to have traffic and just small enough that everyone knows what kind of beer you buy. No kids. Just two people trying to pretend they hadn't run out of things to say. I'd been feeling off for a while. Tightness in the chest. Breath catching in ways it didn't used to. But you tell yourself it's nothing. Too many late-night coffees, too much fried food, stress, the miles, the silence. Truckers live in their heads. We know how to push through. It hit just west of Omaha. The pain bloomed behind my sternum like someone driving a railroad spike into my ribs. I pulled over, hands shaking, heart punching a rhythm I didn't recognize. Sat there, blinking at the horizon, wondering if this was it. Then I did what I've always done, handled it. Called 911 myself. They airlifted me to Sioux Falls. I don't remember the ride, only flashes of sky, the whir of blades, a nurse's voice in my ear telling me to stay with her. I flatlined twice. Woke up 2 days later with a stent in my heart and a 1,000-yard stare I couldn't shake. That's when I checked my phone. One message. From Dana. Not "Are you okay?" or "I'm here," or even "Call me." Just a screenshot of our bank account. Balance, $0. 00. Caption. I deserve this after everything I've put up with. $94,458. 72. Every damn cent. The emergency fund I built slowly, the truck maintenance cushion, the retirement account I thought maybe we'd dip into someday for a trip to Oregon, all gone. Vapor. I stared at the screen until the words stopped meaning anything. Then I clicked reply and sent her a thumbs-up emoji. That's all. I don't think I even blinked. The nurse came in a few minutes later, told me I needed to rest. Said stress was the enemy now. No driving for at least 6 weeks, she warned. Someone coming to get you tomorrow? Yeah, I said. My wife. That was a lie. I didn't know where Dana was. Probably at some bistro downtown, spinning stories to her friends about how her husband had emotionally abandoned her long before his heart gave out. I waited until evening, then made the only call that felt right. Hey, Jeff. You home? My older brother answered on the first ring. Always, he said. I need a place to crash for a few days. Somewhere off-grid. And I need you not to tell Dana. Long pause. She doesn't know you made it? Oh, she knows. Just doesn't know I'm not coming back. Jeff didn't ask questions. That's what I love about him. A construction foreman with 2 divorces under his belt. He knows when to push and when to shut the hell up. He picked me up the next day in his work truck. Didn't say a word about the hospital bracelet still on my wrist. Just helped me into the passenger seat like it was any other day. We drove in silence. Country music low on the radio. Grain silos rolling past. It wasn't until we got to his place, a modest ranch house with a crooked fence and a loyal mutt named Hank, that he finally asked, "She really took everything?" I nodded. Left me $60 and a hospital bill. He handed me a sandwich. What are you gonna do? I took a bite. Didn't taste like anything. I'm gonna rest, I said. Doctor's orders. But I didn't sleep that night. Just lay there on my back in his spare bedroom, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slow circles above me. My chest still ached, but not from the surgery. I kept seeing that message from Dana. I deserve this after everything I've put up with. 15 years. 1,000 nights away from home. Birthdays missed. Anniversaries spent on video calls. All to keep food on the table and the bills paid. And somehow, she was the one who'd put up with something. That was the moment something broke clean inside me. Not rage. Not grief. Just stillness. Like when a storm finally stops, and all you can hear is the quiet it leaves behind. Sometimes survival isn't about being strong. It's about being patient enough to let someone hang themselves with the rope they think you don't see. By the 3rd day at Jeff's place, I'd stopped waiting for Dana to call. She wasn't going to. Not to apologize. Not to check in. Not even to see if I'd died after all. She'd moved on. Probably thought she was 10 steps ahead. That I'd come home weak, scared, maybe grateful just to still be alive. Instead, I was staring out my brother's window with a pen in my hand and a yellow legal pad on my knee, making a list. Bank accounts, check. House deed, check. Truck title, check. Credit cards in my name only, check. I hadn't been reckless. I was a trucker, not a fool. I'd seen too many guys get cleaned out after decades on the road. Loneliness can turn into infidelity real fast, and infidelity into financial sleight of hand faster. So I quietly made my preparations. Last year, after my friend Billy ended up on a ventilator without a soul to speak for him, I gave my niece Megan, Jeff's daughter, smart as hell and halfway through law school, medical power of attorney. I told Dana, but she didn't care enough to ask what that actually meant. And when I refinanced the house 3 months back, Dana had begged off attending. Said she had yoga. I put the mortgage in my name alone. Higher credit, lower rate. She didn't even blink. Never asked to see the paperwork. And I didn't offer. I don't like confrontation. But I do like insurance. The kind you build quietly while pretending everything's fine. Still, I hadn't expected the message. The account wiped clean. The cowardice of her silence. I thought maybe, she'd at least wait until I came home. Maybe she'd lie to my face like a decent person. But Dana wasn't interested in decency anymore. She'd made her move. And now, it was my turn. I drove out with Jeff to the downtown branch of our bank. Not the one where Dana and I had our account, but the main office. Asked to speak with the fraud investigator. Sat across the table from a woman named Janice who looked like she'd seen 100 versions of my story before. I showed her Dana's text. The screenshot. My discharge papers. Mr. Mercer, she said carefully. Your wife was a joint account holder, which legally gives her full access. But, she hesitated, then continued. If you were medically incapacitated when the funds were withdrawn, and she did it knowing you were unable to object, there may be grounds to report this as exploitation. That word, exploitation, stuck to my ribs like glue. She gave me a checklist of what I'd need. Proof of hospitalization, dates, signed affidavits. I told her I'd have it all by the end of the week. Back at Jeff's, I kept things quiet. I didn't tell Dana I'd filed anything. Didn't even let her know I was alive. Instead, I started doing what I've always done when the road gets long and uncertain. I planned. I reviewed passwords. Changed what needed changing. Logged into my old business account, the one I used for independent freight contracts. Still had a few thousand sitting in there. Enough to live lean for a few months. Dana had never cared much for the details. She liked the end result. Didn't ask where the checks came from or how many hours I had to drive to earn them. I also started reviewing our tax returns. Found a few things she'd conveniently forgotten to mention, like the extra income she'd started declaring from freelance consulting. Dana hadn't worked in consulting a day in her life. I flagged it for Blake, Jeff's friend who practiced family law. We met in a diner out by the truck stop, the kind of place with burnt coffee and vinyl booths where nobody asks questions. Blake was lean, gray-haired, eyes sharp as ice. You planning to reconcile? He asked. No, I said. You want her punished? I sipped my coffee. No, I want her contained. He nodded. Then here's what we do. Blake laid it all out. What I needed to gather. What would hold up in court. What wouldn't. We'd file quietly. Strategic timing. Minimal noise. Let her keep thinking she had the upper hand. The best kind of revenge was delivered without raising your voice. That night, I went for a walk. Jeff's neighborhood was quiet. Sprinklers ticking. Porch lights humming. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked half-heartedly at a passing car. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel helpless. I felt ready. Not for a fight, but for something colder. Something cleaner. Justice. Let her keep spending. Let her move money. Let her smile at whoever she'd invited into my bed while I was unconscious. She thought I was just a truck driver with a weak heart and no backup plan. But she didn't know the roads I've driven. The storms I've outlasted. The way a man learns to survive when he's 1,000 miles from home with nothing but time and the hum of the highway to think things through. Let her play the game. I was building the trap. It wasn't what she did that broke me. It was how normal she made it all seem, like betrayal was just another Tuesday. You know that feeling when something's not right, but you can't name it yet? That low hum just beneath your ribs, warning you that something's off? That was the feeling I woke up with every morning. By the end of the first week at Jeff's, it had settled into my bones. The problem wasn't the money anymore. That could be rebuilt. It was something else. The way Dana had vanished into silence, like I was an appointment she'd canceled and forgotten about. There was no panic in her message, no remorse, just a cold, clipped sentence. I deserve this after everything I've put up with. I started to realize something. Dana hadn't snapped. She'd been preparing. She was already living in the aftermath before I even knew the disaster had begun. That's when I started watching. I didn't go to our house. Not yet. Instead, I called Harold. Well, I called him through a burner app. Blocked number. He didn't answer. I didn't expect him to. Harold was our next-door neighbor. Retired firefighter. Big arms, small talk. Always offering to help when I was on the road. I didn't think twice about it when Dana said he helped hang shelves while I was in Oregon or fixed the garbage disposal while I was driving through Dallas. But something had never sat right with the way he looked at me, like I was temporary. A couple nights later, Jeff and I were sitting on the porch when his daughter Megan pulled in. She looked shaken. "You're not going to like this," she said, sitting across from me with her laptop open. She'd been digging. Quietly, carefully. Cross-checking financial activity against my haul schedule. "There's another account," she said. "Dana's. Opened about 18 months ago. Regular deposits. Just under the reporting threshold. Always when you were out of town." I leaned forward, trying not to blink. "How much?" $127,000. Give or take. I sat back, eyes on the dark trees across the lawn. She hadn't just taken from the account we shared. She'd been saving somewhere else. Preparing for my absence. Or maybe for her escape. But it wasn't just the money. It was the pattern. New clothes that showed up while I was on the road. Charges at hotels in cities I wasn't near. I hadn't noticed them before, because I wasn't supposed to. I started calling old friends. Quiet calls. Nothing dramatic. Turns out she'd been talking. Concerned about me. Saying I'd changed. That I'd become distant. That our marriage wasn't what it used to be. She was planting seeds. Preparing the ground. And the way she did it, so subtle, so measured, told me this wasn't her first time trying to rewrite the narrative. I remembered a conversation we had 2 years ago. She brought up an old friend of hers, Lauren, who'd left her husband after finding out he'd been stashing cash. Dana had called it brave. I called it shady. She got quiet for the rest of the night. Back then, I thought it was a difference of opinion. Now I wondered if it was foreshadowing. The next day, I drove past our house. Parked 3 doors down. Watched from behind my windshield. There was a man in the driveway. Not Harold. Someone younger. Leaner. Wearing my Seahawks hoodie. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just sat there and watched as he walked our dog, my dog, and went back inside like he owned the place. I could feel my pulse in my jaw, but my hands stayed steady. Because this was no longer about heartbreak. It was about the truth. And I was done looking away. That night, I went home, the place I used to call home. Dana wasn't there. I used my key. Walked through the quiet house. Smelled cologne that wasn't mine. Saw 2 wine glasses in the sink. A pair of boots by the door, not my size. And the wedding photo that used to sit on the hallway table? Gone. I didn't touch anything. Just picked up a few important documents I'd left behind. My passport, birth certificate, a lockbox with family papers. Before I left, I looked at the dining table. Same centerpiece. Same placemats. Like nothing had changed. But everything had. She wasn't hiding it. She didn't need to. She thought I was too weak to do anything. Too slow to catch up. And maybe I had been. But not anymore. I walked out, locked the door behind me, and left like I was never supposed to come back. Back at Jeff's, I poured a drink and wrote a message to Blake. Subject, full discovery. Body, we go in. All of it. I want every name, every dollar, every hidden piece. This wasn't a divorce anymore. It was a goddamn operation. And I was finally ready to take it apart. They didn't just leave me. They built an escape route through my life, brick by brick, while I paid the mortgage. It was 2 weeks after I left the hospital when the letter came. Certified mail. Dana's signature at the top in that neat, slanted handwriting she always used when she wanted to seem composed. The return address wasn't ours. It was AP. O. Box and Pierre. Inside, divorce papers. Served clean and cold. Filed with the state. Pre-written settlement proposal attached. Her terms. She was asking for half the house, despite her name not being on the deed. She wanted a portion of my pension. She wanted my truck. My damn truck. I sat at the kitchen table with Jeff across from me, watching as I read every page in silence. I guess she's not wasting time, he said. She's making her exit. I said. Legal and final. She's got a plan. I nodded. Yeah. And she thinks I'm still too sick to stop her. But what Dana didn't know, what she never understood, was that my silence was never surrender. It was observation. I wasn't reacting. I was recording. And now, with those documents in hand, I knew exactly what she was trying to pull. What followed was a whirlwind. Blake filed the countersuit the same week, cited the forged refinance, a signature on a second mortgage application that looked almost like mine. But the stroke order was wrong. The loop in the E didn't match. I hadn't signed that paper. Dana had. We pulled bank logs. She hadn't just cleaned out the joint account. She'd moved over $47,000 into a private one, in her name alone, the week I flatlined. Timing so perfect it felt rehearsed. We also discovered she'd listed someone as a co-applicant on that fake mortgage refi. His name was Harold Jensen, our neighbor, my so-called friend, the same man who'd texted me weeks ago pretending to be concerned about a strange guy at the house. It had been him, all along. The man walking my dog, drinking from my coffee mug, sleeping in my bed. He wasn't just comforting Dana. He was cashing in. Blake leaned back in his chair after showing me the documents. They were trying to flip the house, Eli. Refinance it, drain the equity, then sell it while you were recovering. Move the cash and vanish. I stared at the paper. They thought I'd die. Blake didn't answer. He didn't need to. We had signatures, dates, financial trails that told a story clearer than any confession. But there was one more thing. A phone call. From Megan. Uncle Eli, she said, her voice shaking. I found security footage. From where? Our house. The smart system I installed 2 years ago. Cameras Dana never figured out how to disable. They'd been backing up to the cloud the whole time. Megan had accessed them from my old credentials. And what she found nearly made me vomit. Footage from the week I was in the hospital. Harold in our kitchen, holding Dana from behind, kissing her neck. Dana whispering, he'll never fight back. He's too proud, too tired. And then Harold, just say he threatened you, that he was unstable. The court will side with you. I watched that video twice. Not to confirm the betrayal, I already knew, but to understand the precision. They weren't careless. They were cold. They were methodical. Dana hadn't lost love. She'd lost interest. And in its place, she'd built a scheme. I wasn't a husband anymore. I was an obstacle. That night, I sat on the edge of Jeff's porch and stared out at the dark. Heart tight. Not with pain. Not even grief. But with the pressure of every quiet moment I had let slide. Every instinct I'd suppressed. Every time I'd convinced myself that trust was love and silence was strength. Dana used to say I was stoic. She said it like it was a virtue. Now I knew it was just easier to rob a man who doesn't speak. But I was speaking now. I sent the video to Blake, then to the bank's fraud department, then to the notary who'd signed the refinance document, along with a statement contesting its validity. I filed a police report for signature fraud. I signed an affidavit for financial abuse of a vulnerable adult. I had the heart of a broken man, but I still had fight in me, and I'd been quiet long enough. She didn't just want out. She wanted to walk away clean, holding everything that used to be mine. And she almost did. Almost. The thing about betrayal is that once you recognize the first lie, the rest starts shining like broken glass under sunlight. All it takes is the right angle. That angle came 2 days after we sent the footage to Blake. It was Megan again, my niece, halfway through law school, quietly becoming the most dangerous ally in my life. You need to see this, she said over the phone. I traced the name on the secret account Dana was using, the one with all the sub-$10,000 deposits. Okay, I said, already bracing for whatever came next. She wasn't the only one using that account, Megan continued. There's an authorized user. Harold. Yes, but it gets worse. I ran some background on Harold Jensen. You mean the good neighbor who helped with the gutters? The same. He's been involved in at least 2 other cases in the last 5 years. Women going through divorces or married to men who traveled for work. One in Nebraska, one in Wyoming. I went quiet. Megan filled the silence. Same pattern. He comforts the wife, helps her manage finances, co-signs on hidden accounts, then vanishes with his cut after the house sells or the accounts are drained. In both cases, the husbands were blindsided. One was a military guy, deployed overseas when the paperwork started moving. Jesus Christ, I muttered. It's a racket, she said. And Dana's either a willing partner or the latest in a line of victims turned accomplices. She sent over documentation. I printed it. read through everything, highlighter in hand, like I was studying for war. And the deeper I read, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't just about me. This was a pattern. A low-rent grift dressed up as heartbreak. And Harold? He wasn't sloppy, but he was greedy. That was his weakness. Blake had already filed injunctions to freeze our marital assets. But now we had reason to go further. He reached out to a contact in federal law enforcement, Financial Crimes Division. Crossed state lines, impersonation, forgery, and conspiracy? That's not just dirty divorce court drama. That's a federal case. And things started to move. Fast. The FBI opened a preliminary investigation. Quietly. No sirens. No headlines. Just agents asking questions. They contacted the credit union. Got flagged transactions. Surveillance footage of Harold withdrawing cashier's checks under a fake business name. Records showing Dana's name tied to the same entity. A ghost company with AP, box, and no tax filings. I didn't know whether she came up with that part, or if Harold was the architect. At that point, it didn't matter. I wasn't looking for an apology. I was building a case. And then came the real turning point. The day I sat across from Dana's attorney, Patricia Wells, the same one who tried to paint me as unstable, and watched her read through the documents Blake handed over. Her face went pale. "This isn't just divorce court anymore," Blake said calmly. "Your client forged mortgage documents. She funneled money into an undeclared account. And she did it while Mr. Mercer was incapacitated in a hospital, flatlining on a table." Wells stared at the paperwork. "You're bluffing," she said. Blake smiled. "Try us." The next morning, I got a text from Dana. "We need to talk. Just you and me. No lawyers." I didn't respond. Instead, I drove back to the house. Not to go inside, but to wait. Harold pulled up 15 minutes later. Alone. Talking on the phone. Looking nervous. Then he went inside. 10 minutes after that, Dana pulled in. She was wearing sunglasses. She didn't look at the street. That's when I hit record. 30 seconds of them in the doorway. Her pushing him gesturing wildly, both clearly arguing. I sent it to Blake. "More fuel," I said. "You're stacking the deck," he replied. "Good," I said. "I'm tired of playing defense." That night, I met Blake and Megan at his office. We laid everything out. Timelines, financial transfers, forged signatures, cloud footage, witness statements, emails Dana had written, some from my own account, which she had apparently accessed without permission. "Next step?" I asked. Blake tapped the desk. "We let them squirm. Let the feds do what they do. But we also make it very clear that you're not walking away from this quietly. You're not losing the house. You're not handing over your pension. You're not eating the fallout for a woman who saw you as a paycheck with a heartbeat." I nodded slowly. This wasn't vengeance. It was clarity. Dana had played her hand. Now it was my turn to show her who I'd become while she was busy burying me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw a punch. I simply gave them the truth, piece by piece, and let it burn through their lies like daylight through a locked room. When you've been underestimated long enough, you start to enjoy it. Dana thought I'd be too ashamed to fight. Harold thought I'd roll over like the other men he'd buried under paperwork and charm. And Patricia Wells, Dana's pitbull attorney, thought I was just another quiet man with a slow heartbeat and no legal leverage. None of them were ready for what came next. We served Dana the full countersuit on a Thursday morning, hand-delivered to her office. Not her home, her office. A place full of co-workers who thought she was a wronged wife navigating a hard goodbye. Let them read the fine print. We included everything. The forged refinance, the hidden account and transfers, the co-signature from Harold Jensen, the security footage from our front door and interior cams. The federal inquiry opened against Harold for financial conspiracy across state lines. Attached was a USB drive, labeled for discovery purposes, containing the now infamous clip, Dana whispering, "Just say he threatened you. The court will side with you." Let her watch herself destroy her credibility in 17 seconds. Let her lawyer try to spin that into empowerment. Later that day, she called me. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. Her voice tight, trembling between anger and fear. "I don't know what you're trying to prove, Eli, but this doesn't help you. You're making things worse. For both of us." "No, Dana, this doesn't help you." And that's the first honest thing I'd done in this marriage in years. The next morning, Blake filed motions to formally freeze all joint assets. Dana's name was flagged at both the credit union and our primary bank. She wouldn't move a dime without it being noticed. We also filed for an injunction preventing the sale or transfer of the house. The judge approved it that afternoon. I wanted to be there when she found out. I wasn't, but I did get a second-hand account from Megan, who saw Dana at the courthouse. She looked like someone who'd seen a ghost, she said. Tried to play it off, but her hands were shaking. Good. Let her feel just a fraction of what she made me feel. And Harold? He broke first. The feds brought him in for questioning. We knew because Blake's contact at the bureau tipped us off. Said Harold folded the second they showed him the footage of him signing for Dana's account. Started talking, throwing out excuses. I didn't know she was still married. She said he was abusive. I thought it was all settled. Classic grifter damage control. But he went one step further. He gave names. Other women. Other men. Other houses. They were going to nail him. And Dana? They weren't sure yet. Blake told me the bureau was considering whether she was a willing partner or a manipulated accomplice. I knew the truth. She'd started as the latter, but she became the former. That weekend, she showed up at Jeff's, parked across the street in her silver sedan, stood in the front yard like a ghost unsure of where to haunt. I stepped out onto the porch. She didn't speak at first, just stood there with her arms crossed, like she had a right to my silence. Finally, she said, "Can we talk?" No. Her eyes narrowed. "This is all a misunderstanding. You don't know what it was like." "I know exactly what it was like," I interrupted. "You lied. You forged my name. You emptied our accounts while I was unconscious in a hospital bed. And then you stood next to a man who told you to accuse me of being unstable. That wasn't serious. We were angry. You don't understand what I was going through. You had wine glasses in the sink while I was being defibrillated, Dana." She flinched. Good. I walked down to the edge of the porch, close enough for her to see my face, but not close enough for her to think she could rewrite the story again. "I want you to understand something," I said. "You don't have power here anymore. This isn't your stage. I'm not your audience. I'm not your victim. You're not perfect either," she spat. I almost laughed. "No," I said. "I'm not. But I never stole from you. I never lied under oath. I never tried to turn your life into a business transaction." She looked down. For a moment, she seemed smaller, frail. Then she said it. The thing that let me know she wasn't sorry. Just cornered. "You weren't supposed to wake up." I nodded once. Just once. And I turned and walked inside. Didn't say another word. Didn't need to. 3 days later, Dana's lawyer called Blake. They wanted to settle. No alimony. No pension. No claim to the house. Just a clean exit and a non-disclosure clause to keep her name out of the federal filings. Blake asked what I wanted. I said, "No gag order. She doesn't get to pretend this didn't happen. I won't shame her publicly, but I'm not going to protect her from the truth." And that was the end of it. 13 years. Signed away with a pen. But I didn't feel loss. I felt something heavier. Something better. Freedom. The truth didn't roar. It didn't crash through the doors like a movie ending. It arrived slowly. And when it did, no one cheered. But I slept, finally. Harold pled out. 8 counts. Wire fraud, conspiracy, forgery. He gave them everything. Clients. Timelines. Emails. Enough to open a wider investigation across 3 states. He'll serve 6 years, maybe more. Dana wasn't charged. But her name's in the files. Her signature on documents. Her voice on tape. She can't scrub it away. The court awarded me the house outright. No buyout. No shared equity. Her claim was denied. My pension? Untouched. The judge even granted restitution on the account she drained. Half of it returned from assets she'd tried to hide. When it was all over, Blake handed me the final file, thick, weighty. Everything tied off. "You did it," he said. "No," I replied. "She did. I just stayed alive long enough to prove it." Outside, the air was sharp. Autumn creeping in. I stood on my own front porch again. Alone. No moving trucks. No goodbye letters. Just peace. And for the first time in months, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for justice. It had already come. Quietly. There was no epiphany. No movie moment. Just a morning where I woke up and didn't think about her first. I didn't move right away. I fixed the back steps. Refinished the kitchen table with my own hands. Cooked more. Slept deeper. Some days I still caught myself listening for her key in the door. Muscle memory, mostly. Habit. But the silence stopped hurting. Eventually, I sold the truck. Took a job teaching younger drivers the trade. Less road, More breath. No more miles spent running from a house that didn't love me back. I saw Dana once at the grocery store. She looked older. Not worse, just ordinary. She smiled. I nodded. That was it. The past didn't chase me anymore. I'd buried it with the rest of what didn't survive the storm. What remained was mine. Quiet. Solid. Enough.